welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Friday, January 3rd. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 462 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. Another week in the books, closer and closer to this season finally coming to a close and the offseason beginning with the New York Jets slated to have one more game this Sunday against the Miami Dolphins out at MetLife Stadium, and in its full force, full on into the offseason. And we've got a lot of news to talk about today as the New York Jets have continued their interview process, and Mike Vrabel was in the building today, was out at One Jets Drive this afternoon for an interview, so we will break that all down. Many, including myself's top candidate. What does this mean? Why it's a positive? All that good stuff we'll get to here in today's podcast. I also want to talk about Louis Riddick getting an interview as well. Yesterday, that was announced that he interviewed with the Jets for their GM vacancy, so we'll touch on that as well a little bit later on. Before that, though, we'll, of course, get to the biggest news, which is the Mike Vrabel interview. As always, though, before we begin, we got to get to our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS. Let's take a look. Question of the day here. Mike Vrabel was in Florham Park this afternoon. He was out at One Jets Drive. Should the Jets hire Mike Vrabel as their next head coach? I 100% say yes. Are you on board with Mike Vrabel as well? If you want to get in on any of sports betting action, check out BetUS and click my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, check out SeatGeek, another podcast partners of ours. If you're looking for last-minute tickets to this Sunday's contest against the Dolphins, tickets are so cheap that if you use my promo code, you can probably almost get your tickets for free. That's how cheap these tickets are going right now. And if it's your first time buying any ticket, not just Jets tickets, not just sports, anything in entertainment, plays, concerts, shows, you name it, SeatGeek has it. Use my promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase and get yourself out to some awesome SeatGeek or awesome events in entertainment and, of course, sports as well. And as always, Huga House, if you want the hat I'm wearing or any of their awesome selection of hats, check them out and use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase. When you use that promo code, that's 15% off your first hat and then 30% off your second hat with that code. So check them out and get yourself some awesome Huga House swag here to kick off 2025. So here we go. Second episode of 2025, just a couple days into what is going to be a massive month of January for the New York Jets and a massive year for the New York Jets as, of course, they search for a brand new regime with the 2024 season finally coming to a close this weekend out at MetLife Stadium against the Dolphins. Make sure to please like and subscribe. Today we got some breaking news here from a New York Jets perspective. This morning, Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic reported that the New York Jets were going to be interviewing Mike Vrabel in person today. Wrote an article on it, actually was basically tracking and following Vrabel, rather, this entire year and what Rosenblatt called as Vrabel's gap year. Of course, was fired last season from Tennessee, spent this season up until this week with the Browns before his consulting contract expired, which you spoke about earlier on in the week about him officially being available for interviews. So that report came out this morning, and then just about an hour or two ago, the official New York Jets official New York Jets Twitter account, social media accounts, all that officially confirmed it. They got an interview in with Vrabel. It's officially, the interview is concluded. And that's the first interview here with Mike Vrabel for any team. And I think that's a positive. I'll just start with that. Vrabel, after Sunday's action, it came out Monday afternoon that Vrabel's contract officially expired. He was obviously a consultant for the Browns this season. and his contract officially expired this past week. So he was available for interviews, and the New York Jets are the first team to interview him. And I think that's a positive. Look, this is a positive. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Mike Vrabel is going to 100% become the next Jets head coach. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Mike Vrabel is 100% as interested in the Jets as it seems like the Jets and of course the fan base is as interested in him. But the fact that the Jets were the first ones to obviously jump on an interview clearly shows their interest to Vrabel, and the fact that it was in person where he got to see the facility, kind of got to get a little bit of a very brief lay of the land, even though the team and the current staff is there today. But the fact that all of that took place here before any other team did that, I think it's a positive. And I think it's very proactive for the Jets to do that. We talked about it the minute the news came out that he was going to be available, that the Jets should jump on that immediately. And they did. And you give them credit for that. And that's led by the 33rd team with Rick Spielman and Mike Tannenbaum, who have gathered a lot of names so far, have interviewed a lot of candidates. The Jets have already made a lot of headway in this coaching and GM search. And today was another step in the right direction. Now, is Vrabel using the Jets to maybe, I don't know, send a message to other teams? You never know how this process, of course, plays out. You want to look at this from the negative perspective and say, oh, Vrabel's just using the Jets. He's showing everybody that, he's going to try and, going to force other teams now to get interviews with him, quicker. It might be telling New England, because there's been some reports that he's interested in New England's job, although Gerard Mayo is still there. He has not been fired yet, but maybe this is a kind of a nudge to Robert Kraft and the Patriots saying, look, I'm available. I'm open. I'm interviewing with the Jets. You should fire Mayo so you can come bring me in. I don't want to read all down all this. I'm going to look at it. I prefer to look at this from the positive perspective of they got him in, they got him into the building in person. And I think where the Jets are at right now as a franchise, and with a candidate like Vrabel, who I think most of us can agree, maybe outside of only Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson's a little different just because first-time guy, and it feels like Ben Johnson's already down to really two teams. It feels like Ben Johnson's either going to the Bears or the Jaguars. He's not coming to the Jets, and I doubt he's going elsewhere. He's going to be very selective. So outside of him, like Vrabel, in terms of guys that have coached in the past, he is by far the number one guy on this market that's available here in 2025. I think the Jets, where they're at as an organization, not only need to prove to Vrabel, I was going to say Olbrich, not only need to prove to Vrabel, but also need to prove to all other coaches that how much they want him and why he should want to come here, even, a little bit even more so than why the Jets should hire Vrabel, right? Like Vrabel is going to tell the Jets why they should hire him, but the Jets should have to also kind of make their case with everything that's come out. The bombshell reports, the whole Woody Johnson meddling, all these people within this building have to also make their case why the Jets are the right destination for Vrabel and other coaching candidates as well. And this process already happening here before the season is even over is really, really ahead of the game. So I look at today as a positive for the Jets. You get them in the building, you get an interview, step in the right direction, interview one down, another interview as a whole down, and it's your top candidate. Like, you look at it today, you walk away today as a Jet fan thinking the Jets are the first team to speak with the top candidate in this coaching carousel. And that is a massive positive, in my opinion. You guys know what Mike Vrabel has done. We all know what Mike Vrabel can do, right? We've gone through the list a ton of times. 6 seasons with Tennessee. Coach of the year in 2021. 54-45 record. Made it to a conference title game in 2021 with the 2019 rather, against the Chiefs. 4 of his 6 seasons had at least 9 wins. Made the playoffs in 3 of his 6 seasons. The guy is a CEO type coach, a no nonsense, no BS coach that can come in here and get the stink out of this organization and change this culture and really do a complete 180 from where this team is right now. So positive news coming out of Jetland. And also in this article, and now as we really start to really ramp things up here, because once Monday comes, that's Black Monday, boom. Next week, there's going to be a ton of interviews. The week after that is going to be a ton of interviews, and then you're going to start seeing, right, certain teams are going to get eliminated from the playoffs, making certain more coaches available if you're going to go the coordinator route. And really at that point, you really start to accelerate. Then you're going to start seeing teams hire coaches. You're going to start seeing teams hire GMs. Things are really going to start to really fall into place. Just some names now, right? We've already got an interview now with Vrabel, another step closer. Ryan Cowden, who was the interim GM with the Titans, is a name to look for as a potential GM to pair with Vrabel. Vrabel never wanted him to go. They ended up getting rid of him, bringing a new GM in 2023. Vrabel didn't love it. Obviously, everybody after that was out after 2023 anyway. You look at maybe his potential offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen, potentially. Just thinking of a possible staff here for Mike Vrabel. But most importantly, just a proven culture guy that you were able to interview, number one. And it shows you your interest. And again, I think that's super, super important. It shows you the Jets' level of interest in him. That is, like, as much as the Jets need to see what Vrabel is as a coach and what he wants and all that stuff, it also shows you the level of interest the Jets have. And it also allows the Jets now to prove why Vrabel should want to come here because of what's been reported about Woody Johnson in this organization. And I will say this too. Vrabel's the only guy that I would give full power to hire the GM. Like, hire him as the head coach and then allow him to put his staff together, find the next GM, or at least be a part of those conversations. That's he would be the only guy. Other than that, everybody else, I'm going GM first, then coach. Vrabel would be the only one, though. So we'll see what happens. But it's a positive. Add him amongst the list of interviews so far. Now, I just also want to quickly touch upon this too, because it is something else the Jets did here in the last 24 hours since we spoke on Wednesday. The Jets interviewed Louis Riddick yesterday for their general manager vacancy. You guys know where I stand with Riddick. I think he is I think it's possible he could eventually one day turn out to be a very good GM. But you guys just know where I'm at with first-time candidates. I'm just not high on them, both from a general manager perspective and a head coach perspective, especially head coach perspective. Like, if you would have told me you get Vrabel and then Vrabel brings in like a first-time guy of his own, I could get on board with that. If it's Vrabel making the hire, him ultimately making the call, or if there's some sort of connection there between the two or whatever, you need to at least have experience at one position, ideally both. But Riddick, just the experience just isn't quite there, right? I mean, he was with the Redskins from 2001 to 2007 in a variety of different roles. At the time, the Redskins, of course, and it was with the Eagles from 2008 to 2013 in a variety of different roles. So spent 12, 13 years consecutively in the NFL with different roles with two organizations, in the NFC East. But since that's been on TV, of course, ESPN analyst, very inexperienced. Lots of time as a scout, never really been an assistant GM, much of front office roles ever, but a guy that's gotten a lot of looks over the last couple years. He was interviewed as Pittsburgh a couple years ago for their GM vacancy when the Giants in 2022 as well were going through their GM process, finding Shane and Dable at the time. They interviewed Riddick as well. So Riddick, every year, his name this time of year pops up, and he's gotten a lot of interviews, just has never gotten the job just yet. I think Riddick could potentially work out. I just don't think it's here. I think he'd probably be better off somewhere else. Again, you guys know where I stand. I think everybody Jet fan stands on this. At least if you're going to hire an inexperienced guy or a guy that's never been a GM before, at least have them be like an assistant GM or a guy that's actively involved with an organization right now, right? You want to go after a Ray Agnew, a Mike Borgonzi, guys that have been around with winning organizations for a while now, or have seen winning organizations turn around, like Ray Agnew has just now the last couple of years in Detroit. Riddick's a guy that he hasn't been with an organization since 2013. And yes, he seems like a very good talent evaluator. You hear a lot of what he has said on ESPN. A lot of it's been correct over the last couple of years. A lot of people are high on him. I don't know. I just think too many unknowns there for a first-time guy. But another name to throw into the ring. And you look at the Jets interview so far, and look, this is, credit, to the 33rd team so far, Tannenbaum and Spielman. They have collected a long list so far. They've said that they've gone through a thorough search, and the Jets are ahead of a lot of teams right now, right? They've already gotten 4 interviews done for general manager. They've interviewed John Robinson, Thomas Dimitroff, Jim Nagy, and Louis Riddick. And your head coach, they've already interviewed Ron Rivera and Mike Vrabel. Vrabel, the biggest one. So still a lot more work to be done, but the fact that the season's not even over, you're going to go into Monday with 6 interviews done, 4 GM, 2 head coach, pretty good progress, and then things really begin. So those are where things stand right now with the Jets and their GM and head coach search. Vrabel, of course, the biggest news. And believe me, I said to myself today, I saw the news and I'm like, I was talking to one of my friends. I'm telling him, I'm in that moment, I'm like, lock him up. Lock the door, keep him inside of one Jets drive, get the deal done. And I'm right there with every other fan that feels that way. But the Jets can't do that. You have the whole Rooney rule that they have to go through with the minority coaches. So they have to do that. Plus, Vrabel is going to want to look around as well. The Saints are going to be interested. I'm sure he'll get interviews elsewhere. Raiders, Bears, Patriots, if they fire Mayo. He's going to get interviews almost everywhere there's a vacancy, I'm sure. So as much as I am totally on board with get the deal done right now, it wasn't going to happen. The Jets need to do the Rooney rule. The Jets also are going to want to go through their own process still. Vrabel's not going to want to only go to the Jets one day and say, I'm staying here. That's just not how it works. But ideally, he ends up with the Jets here sooner rather than later. But today, again, was a step in the right direction. So that'll do it. Episode 462 in the books. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Vrabel interview number 1 down. Let's go. Keep it rolling, and hopefully you land him eventually. That's where I'm at. Vrabel to the Jets. Let's go. First step took place today inside the walls of One Jets Drive. We'll be back tomorrow with our final game preview of the season, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, once the conclusion of the Dolphins game goes down, we'll have our game recap. And then Monday starts it all. We'll have exit interviews Monday, and then a huge offseason will begin. Finally, it's over. And we can look beyond and then really officially look into 2025. So stay tuned. Till next time, JETS, 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 Jets.